Hi. Welcome to the Lone
Welcome.
Wolf Podcast. I'm Drew Thurlow.
Welcome.
I love doing that. Tricks people. They don't know who's who.
What? Our fans are like, what? Our one fan.
Our fan is like, what?
So we have an emergency pod,
When you
right?
start seeing Spotify all over your corner little news alerts on a Thursday and a Wednesday, you have an emergency pod.
Why are we on this emergency pod?
Guess what's happening in the world of music right now? Spotify had an investor meeting and they're actually telling their investors that they are moving away from being a streaming platform and they're going to be an AI creation platform. Now, what does that do to your little AI textbook heart?
It makes my feeble little brain explode.
It makes mine explode too because, by the way, when you talk in universal music language, when you talk to, not universal music, in universal language around music, when you talk to anybody about streaming, they always use the default of Spotify, right? Like you'd have calls with consulting company, everyone just says Spotify is streaming. They have market share, and at least in the United States, it's Spotify. This news to me is just like, hey, we did this well. We're just going to pivot. Like, this
Yeah.
seems weird. I get it. I get the AI craze. I get the creation platform piece. I get trying to create higher tiers for fandoms and for creating more revenue. But like, this to me is just, I was like, you told me this news before I read it. And I'm like, sorry, what? So
Yeah.
would
You know,
love your deal. Yeah.
it reminds me of when I was working at Warner's in the mid 2000s, 2000, maybe 9 or 10. And that was when the industry was like all about 360 deals. And
Yes.
for our one fan listening to this who is not familiar, recorded music deals used to be we would get a percentage of the royal revenue on recorded music sales. Well, when file sharing decimated that model, then the labels started building in like merch and touring and brands and other ancillary revenue publishing, and they were called 360 deals. And I remember the GM of Warner Music Group getting up at the time and being like, "We are no longer a recorded music company. We are a music company. That starts now." And it was like, all right, we are no longer, forget what you know about the history of this company. We are now not just a CD slinging business. We are
It's not just about the master recording. It's about the whole IP.
yeah, right. It's about and then we paraded out Paramore, who had been the first act to earn $1 million with this kind of new 360 model. And I don't think there was another one.
Right. And then the
I
artist
think
was
that was
like,
it. And
wait,
then,
we're not taking any money away. This sucks.
yeah, then it was like, all right, well, we're not actually good at merch, and the publishers exist for a reason, and
Right. It wasn't a
artists
good
aren't going to
idea.
sign away anything else either. And then by that point, iTunes and streaming, and it was like, okay, we'll just go back to being recorded music. We've been talking about how like AI is going to reshape the industry and creation tools, and
Mm-hmm.
I was at a conference, the Mo Forum conference this week, and the media people were there, and it was like, we've done a lot of research on how fans want to engage with audio, and we've been talking about this for years, and I've been yapping about it for years.
Mm-hmm.
This week is the week that it like fucking happened,
Mm-hmm.
where the guy, when Daniel Ek stepped down from Spotify, and the two guys took over, and the Swedish guy who I can't pronounce his name, I'm not
Right.
going to try, the other guy, they had this kind of, they teased this vision, and I was at an event at the Swedish consulate in New York last year where he said, the CFO of Spotify was like, we're going to do all this other cool stuff. We're going to release like a masterclass competitor, and we're going to have these creation tools. And then when Udio settled with the labels last year, it was like, we're going to have this creation platform. And then like this week, it all fucking happened. So Udio announces Starstruck, where you will be able to work with like have music. You will be able to remix. They have like a whole, well, I'll put this in the show notes, but they have a whole list of things that fans are going to get to do to the music.
Mm-hmm.
put your own lyrics on a Beyonce song. Like, remix the song.
But is so
Yeah.
okay, here's my I have many questions about this. You are the expert. I am gonna poke the not poke the holes, poke the bear, poke the Drew. Um, when you for Udio at least, we understand this is a walled garden approach. It's not like Suno. So there was less hesitancy in terms of licensing with that approach because it's not like you could then take it and put it and monetize it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't Sony is not opted in to
Right.
Udio in any way.
Yeah.
So the licensed content that they're using is limited based on the deals that
Well,
they've done.
I think that I think they will probably will be coming because as far as was publicly announced, they've all kind of agreed on what the framework's going to be. And I actually don't know. They haven't announced it. And I've been asking around and I don't know, but I suspect that Sony probably has signed with Udio and it's just they don't talk about it.
I don't think they have.
You don't think they have?
I don't think they have.
Well, I mean, they're going to launch. Fine, they launched with two of the three majors, and that, like,
Uh,
I,
right. And but on that part again about licensing and consent on the Spotify announcement, it only mentioned Universal
yes, it did for now.
for now, correct?
Yeah,
I know that from whatever has sort of been not leaked to the press, whatever the press has been able to talk about over the past 6 to 8 months, I feel like the streaming 2.0 that Lucian talked about, he was talking about it because he had agreed to it. And I think that they have been putting it off to wait for the other majors to agree to it as well. And I don't think that they have. So
no.
they just went forward with Universal.
I wonder if it's because of the timing. Like, it was an investor conference that happened yesterday. It wasn't a, and I should preface that yesterday, meaning the week before for Memorial Day. It wasn't like an earnings call, but it was like a long-standing investor day. I think maybe they just had to. But they also announced another massive partnership, and this is probably a whole other pod, but they announced the Live Nation integration.
Which
Like,
again was expected too.
it was
The
expected to, but they think about what Spotify is now saying to the industry. We are a place to listen to music like we always have,
mhm,
but and we are a fan remix. The model that they're describing is consent, credit, and compensation.
mhm,
They're and the artist community and UMG and Spotify are framing this as like consensual of the artists. There's artist control. Artists can opt out if they don't want, even if
yep,
there's some universal. There's going to be attribution. It sounds responsible. We'll see what
mhm,
happens in practice. But
mhm.
they're like going to have AI generated covers on Spotify now, and you're going to be able to like do the same stuff, remix stuff that you're doing on Udio Starstruck. But here's the difference: everyone's worried about Udio like in the walled garden because they
Yeah.
don't want it to go to Spotify. But this is on Spotify.
It's on Spotify.
So it's clearly not going to live in the royalty pool like everything else.
No, right, it's a creator tool that is separate. I mean, it's just they're almost using Spotify as a player. They're not using it as a monetization tool.
And then there's a lot of stuff we don't know about the Live Nation Spotify integration. And there's stuff that I was told by someone who would murder me if I talked about it publicly. And I want to so bad.
And I
I want to
know, and
so
I'm
bad.
not going to either, even though I
I,
haven't met her yet. I mean them.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Sure. Yeah,
um,
whatever.
so,
It's
so no one's reporting this, but like the integration between Live Nation and Spotify makes a lot of sense. Spotify is now, along with the creation tools, are positioning themselves as a music platform
mhm,
where if you are a certain tier of listener for an artist, you might get access to tickets that only you will have access to if you're in the top like 5% of the weekend or whatever. And then there's all this other stuff. Like for Live Nation, it makes sense. A lot of times, even with popular concerts, it's hard for them to sell tickets because like it's a marketing deal. Like, how do you reach the fans? And what Spotify has all the data on who's listening to what and where. So it's just a good place to market tickets. But it also allows Spotify to raise their prices because now you have these fan creation tools, and the now you have this like ticketing option that's like very tangible. And now Spotify is like, has audiobooks, and they are direct deals for mechanical licenses. Like, and they're increasing their margins. It's like this
It's
is the week, man. It all fucking happened. Like music 2.0.
they did it, and I'm gonna tell you something. I don't see Apple Music going in that direction at all. Include like, they're much it's very standard, DSP. Uh, Amazon Music, I don't know if they're are you listening, Amazon
Yeah.
Music? Um,
Is this thing on?
are you yeah, hi, other they're like, "We don't care, we're owned by Amazon." And then,
Mm.
sorry, just a guest. Our guest was my son. And then YouTube. Yeah, I think, we always talk about this too, like everybody else is attached to a major parent company like Google, Amazon, Apple. You have Spotify. Spotify is Spotify. That's it. They don't have
Yeah.
Spotify, the e-commerce platform. They are who they are. And I think that they are doing exactly what needed to get done. This is why all of the layoffs happen in music. Streaming's plateauing. What's happening? Ah. And now
Mm.
maybe we're back. What are the implications for labels, for royalty payouts and such? Higher
I don't
subscriptions, so labels get paid out better. Maybe minimum guarantees raised because of the rise in premium cost
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag for labels. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but Spotify is basically orienting themselves away from their core business, which is passive streaming.
on
And
on
some of these
recorded music.
yeah, some of these new businesses are still squarely in that lane for them. Obviously, these creation tools, which media thinks can be a 20% boost overall the recorded music industry and
Wow.
some time horizon. So that's not nothing. But
Mm,
Spotify, they sold investors, and I'm going to read the quote here. They sold investors a mid-teens annual revenue growth through 2030, which 15% year over year growth would is the top year of streaming growth we've seen in
right.
20.
Like
Now it's
ever. Right.
now, I mean, it's some year. I think one year they hit 17, but now it's more around 7, 8, with gross margins on Spotify for 35 to 40%. The gross margins now for Spotify are not nearly that. They're 20s
Mhm.
at best, and operating margins above 20%. So that means that they're relying on revenue and income that they don't have to pay back out to rights holders. And right now they have to basically
Right.
pay every dollar Spotify makes, essentially 70% of it is claimed by a rights
Right.
holder. And with the tickets on Live Nation, with the higher subscription tier, like if you are a fan paying $5 more a month for music for the highest tier, and you're buying it because you want to listen to audiobooks, buy tickets, and then do fan remixes. Well, the fan remix thing is going to go back to the labels a little bit, but the
Right.
Spotify, the Live Nation stuff, which they're calling, I should say that the name of the program is reserved. So it's Spotify is reserved program is the Live Nation integration. Like that's not going to go back to labels,
Right.
and any audiobooks masterclass type competitor.
Well, this
You're
is like
listening.
original programming from them, like
Yeah. Right.
they get
You're
to that.
listening to Lone Wolf podcast on Spotify. Like Universal ain't getting that shit. Universal, get your hand out of our pot. So it's a mixed bag for labels. I mean, I think
Yeah,
this there's a lot of parts of this business for Spotify that are going to be they're going to carve out of what they pay the rights holders. At the same time, the rights holders are going to be a big piece of this new kind of this
success
walled garden.
of these new offerings. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be. And I
So
don't think it's bad for labels. It's not, it's not as if they're then, saying like, "Oh, we've got these new AI tools and redirecting them somewhere else." They're keeping this all in one place. So, it means that fans and music consumers are staying on the platform for longer. And that's positive, and maybe they'll go back to their playlist after, or they're nobody was the amount of passive listening that was happening is just growing every year. So I feel like this is also an effort to really, have people engage in music beyond what they were offering before. It wasn't good enough.
and I love that point because we are wounded animals in music,
Yeah.
where we're so threatened by AI because for the last 20 years, anytime something came along in music, it was bad. It was like, oh, New internet. Oh, well, there goes our reported music business. Oh, iTunes. Well, that still didn't combat piracy. In fact, it kind of led to more piracy
Right,
because
right. Digital
digital
files.
were everywhere.
Yeah.
Streaming, good. Like, oh, AI. Oh, well, there goes streaming again. And like, I think what that point you just made is that this is all additive. That the
Yep.
passive streaming is still growing, and all this other stuff is just on top of that. And
Mhm.
I spent a really interesting week at Music Biz in Atlanta, and I sat down with a bunch of people, and I talked to one person who, Benji Rogers, who's a friend and who runs Surreal AI and was the founder of Pledge Music, and he's been involved in kind of the music forefront and frontier of music tech for a long time. And he just like lays out this really interesting thesis that attribution and compensation for AI is going to be a huge driver for
Yes.
music viewers. And he who knows, but I think I love that this is just like on top of it. And I think that where my feeble little mind has gone this week is like
Mhm.
we're still trying to shove all of this stuff into the music industry that we know
Yeah.
and have grown up in. And I think we just need to fucking forget everything we know about music, everything we know about the structure, everything we know about how labels are or should be, everything we know about what DSPs are, blow it up. And we need to start it.
I agree
And
with
then,
you. The problem with blowing up is that the major labels, some more than others, don't wanna blow it up because they are hell bent on making money off of master recordings, and that's it. They look at their old business and they say everything else is a threat instead of pivoting and saying, "Okay, well, I think the attribution part is key, and I think it's why there's so much fear around participating because, you know, it's this idea that you're going to to train a model and then the output is gonna be so unrecognizable, but, uh, key to all of the content that was trained on that it doesn't matter anymore, and that we're so far from the original that there's no, the royalties are not being paid out. There's no way to have attribution around that. Because I always think about like blurred lines, like the forensic music people that have to look at these cases, and you can't scale that. And that's like based on one track. Like, how are we doing this? So I agree with you, and I think from our perspective of being outside of it now and saying, "Oh my god, it's a whole new world." Like to you, probably you're like, "Oh, whoa, like we have a new industry now. This is like
yeah,
phase 700, but like we are now in a new industry." And I think it's really exciting. It's very tech forward. It is music related, but in terms of the rights that the labels have, they're not interested because it doesn't, it's not lucrative for them right now.
right. I guess first of all, the good point about the tech, right? The attribution. Obviously, Benji's company, Surreal AI, their business is in fingerprinting and attribution, and he's
Right.
like, it works, it's real. That's the crux, right? If we can't actually track or attribute it,
Yeah.
there's not gonna be a market. I guess I don't mean blow it up in a dramatic sense, like abandon it. I just mean
No, in
that
a good
like
way. Like
I just mean
shake
that
it
like
up.
yeah, I don't even mean let me say. I mean, like, let it die on the vine in an elegant way. Where I have this vision now of like 20 years from now, where passive streaming isn't gone, but maybe passive streaming is more like vinyl, where it's
Mm,
still like $1 billion in today.
there's like
Vinyl's $100,
growth, right?
but like where rights holders and artists are making money is like actually the pie is much bigger in like adaptive gaming and these fan engagement tools and
Mhm.
AR, VR, MR, and like all the quantum stuff. I have another. This is going to get way off topic, but I have a friend of the founder of Third Chair, with my clients, who has this theory that with advanced AI and quantum, master rights are going to be worthless, and because it's going to be too easy to recreate a master, and the publishing is where it's at.
Yeah.
So
That makes
like
total sense.
I'm like, "Oh, man, I don't know." That's a conversation for another pod, but I just think that we shouldn't abandon streaming, we should continue to support it. Obviously, it's 88% of the recorded music business now, but what happens in 20 years when our kids are in their 20s and, like, how are they gonna be consuming music and dealing with artists? I don't think it's gonna be like Spotify, like, passively listening all the time. I think it's gonna be in ways that we can't fathom in like engaging with audio and like in these like cool AR, VR, MR adaptive ways. And I just,
Yeah,
this is the week where like the industry like planted the flag and was like, we are now in a 3.0.
I agree with you, and I do think going back to, like, the what we thought was so and this is always what happens, it's like you had the, like, 8-track and then the tape and CD, and it was like, we are advancing so much, and it was basically the same thing, but based on levels of convenience and how you can listen to it. I don't think, like you just said, passive streaming is ever gonna go away because sometimes you just wanna put on a playlist and walk or go do what you have to do, right? Like, you don't wanna interact with the music in the ways that you can, but as this industry grows and fandoms grow and artist connection to their fans grow, yes, I agree with you. There's going to be a whole new world. It's not just going to concerts or doing meet and greets and waiting online. We can do more. And it doesn't mean we're abandoning the industry or we're changing anything. It's just new ways that you can interact with artists and fans. And that's
Yeah.
like a great
Yes.
thing.
It's a great thing.
It's just progress. It's not
Yeah.
like trying to
Progress.
like to rip off anyone or to do we're taking tech and we're taking the music industry and we're figuring out different ways to offer fans experiences and immersive experiences within music. We've been doing it
Yeah.
forever. We're just at a really, really sort of like advanced tech state that we haven't been in so quickly.
Yeah. The tech component, you're right, is the differentiator. And the challenge for us in the industry is like, not to act like the wounded little animals that we are, and but to like embrace this stuff and realize that this is growth and we can dream and we can have a great industry and we can actually have jobs that support the ecosystem, and it's growth.
It,
It's not
exactly. And maybe
so
major labels start thinking about, okay, maybe we need to expand in the way that we're making investments in
like
spaces
you mean
or
expand to the moon and Mars.
yeah, maybe we need to have an office on the moon.
I
And
would you go work for Universal Music uh
moon? Mar
tranquility base?
your Martians? Universal Martian Group? I would
Yeah.
love to do that. But I think
Might
they're
be
on the
able
right
to.
track. I actually think Universal's, like, kind of on the right track.
Yeah, so do
It's
I.
nice to see them, you know, at least being forward thinking and innovative.
Yeah. Wow, well, this was
There's so
no
much more to say,
no
but we
week.
gotta stop.
Yeah, we got a week, but, thank you, that fan, for listening who's listening.
Thank you,
Be
number
make
1
sure to
fan.
like and subscribe, comment, rate, and don't forget about our Lone Wolves events for New York Music Month,
Yes.
June 16th and 24th in Kiwanis, Brooklyn.
Follow us on Instagram and you'll know everything. And go to our site, www.lonewolfsclub.co. You could join our Slack channel, our hub that we just built, a lot of opportunities there.